back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Crystal. I'm a second year medical student and I'm finishing up my second year right now. So I'm about to start preparing for my step 1 exam. Yay! So some of you guys have been asking me to do a step schedule video. So I figured I would just release that since I kind of finalized my schedule and what I will be doing every day for about 7 weeks. So my school year is over. My last shelf is February 22nd, but our official dedicated period begins March 4th, our official. And I am taking my exam April 19th as of right now. Hopefully everything goes well. Praying to God. And yeah, so that gives me roughly about 7 weeks to study, given I probably will start a little bit earlier than March 4th, but just in case my schedule does permit me to like just officially start March 4th, just because if anything happens the week before and I don't get to study, I'm not like already behind, because we do have like a mock shelf exam the Monday after our last day of school, as well as we have OSCE week. My OSCE is early in the week, but if for any reason I have to delay my OSCE, I have that buffer room. So without further ado, let's get started. So before I get too into my schedule, I thought I would explain what step 1 is to pre-meds or anybody watching this video who doesn't know what Usmle step 1 is. So as a medical student, and I think your first year of residency, you have to do these licensing exams. So USMLE stands for United States Licensing Medical Exam, US Medical Licensing Exam. And there's actually 3 parts to it. So the first part you take in most schools after your second year of medical school. So your first 2 years of medical schools is mostly in the classroom, and they're called your didactic years or your pre-clerkship years. And that's where you kind of learn everything about the human body, how everything works. And then your last 2 years of medical school is working in hospitals and outpatient settings, basically putting all the knowledge you've acquired to use and rotating in different specialties to figure out what you want. So before you can transition, at least in my school, to 3rd year, you have to take the first part of your USMLE exam, and that's step 1. So this is a huge exam for medical students because how you score on this exam is a major factor in what type of specialty that you can go into. So the higher you score, the more options you have as to what type of doctor you can be, because they're more competitive specialties require you to have a higher step 1 exam. Then there's also step 2 and step 3, but those are taken later in your medical career. Step 2 is taken after your 3rd year of medical school, and step 3 is taken in your 1st year of residency. So like I said, there's a big emphasis put on this because you want to have like all your options open. For me, for example, I don't know what I want to go into, so I'm going to try and score as best as I can, so that way nothing's off the table as to what I can be. So some of the most competitive specialties that require the highest step 1 score are plastic surgery, dermatology, neurosurgery, ENT, which is a surgeon that operates on your ear, nose, and throat, orthopedic surgery, ophthalmology, so an eye surgeon, and those require like over 240, like closer to 250. And just to give you sort of some background, I think an average is a 228, and then some specialties that are like on the lower end are primary care doctors. So primary care is a field that there's so many residency programs open for primary care. So a lot of people can apply and there's a lot of spots open. So it's not looked at as being as competitive. I personally think I want to go into primary care, but because I'm not like 100% sure, like I said, I want to do the best I can do. If you guys have a first aid book, it has this diagram that shows you all the specialties and like their average step scores, and that can kind of give you, if you know what you want to do, what you should aim for. So I think most people just kind of aim for like a 250, and then you just Hopefully you get around there, but I don't know. Really, if I try my hardest, whatever I get, I will be happy with, knowing that I prepared the best I could for the exam. So this is the first paper. So this is what our school has us fill out as to how much time that we have. So like officially I have 46 days from the beginning of my formal study to the day before my exam. So that's like 46 days dedicated to studying. Then it says total number of days off, like total numbers that I'm expecting to take off. So right now I have 0 days put into my schedule for days taken off. And that's because like, I don't know when I'm gonna be so burnt out from studying that I'm gonna need to take a day off. So I kind of just put some buffer days at the end of my like scheduling, like closer to my exam date, that if one day I wake up and I'm just like so over these long study days, I can just mentally take that day off and kind of just pencil it into my dedicated studying. But I didn't want to just like put them in there without knowing what days I really want to take, if you understand what I'm saying. So like in the beginning, you know, I expect to be going hard because I have all this energy to start studying for STEP, but then closer to the end I might need them. So I have like 4 buffer days just built in if they're needed, and if not, they can also just be used for studying. Then my number of mock exams, I have 5 written here, but I actually have 4. So my school suggests that we take 3 mock exams, and that kind of makes me a little weary, only taking 3. But they basically were saying that like the mock exams are just like a money-making machine, and so they're not a great representation of how you're going to do, and that they basically like people start freaking out when they take them, and it makes them kind of delay their step, or it makes them buy more mock exams, and that kind of just takes up study time. So I'm planning on doing 4, and that's not including the one that my school gives us before our official study period. So on February 25th, my entire class is taking a mock exam that our school provides for us, that we sit down and we take in a classroom. And then they give us a breakdown of how we did in each section. So we also had one in the beginning of the school year, beginning of my second year, and I kind of bombed it. I think I would have bombed it even if I tried, but I think it was like a 5-hour test, and I kind of just like quickly went through it in an hour, just because I was like, this is my first day of second year, like why would I think I'm gonna do good on this? So I found the paper that it's like an MBME exam, and we took this on August 14th, which was like the second day of second year, and I scored pretty bad, I'm not gonna lie. So it says that my total percent correct was 29%. That was really bad. So this is like the breakdown of it, and you can see that I kind of got a lower performance on everything. I think the only thing that I did like average on was cardio, still kind of low on gross anatomy, and like immunology was the only thing that wasn't like dead last. So I didn't let this get to my head, because I knew that I didn't study for it at all. Like I think most people fail whenever they take a mock exam before studying for steps. So anyways, we're gonna have another one of those on February 25th, and hopefully I do better than 29%. And then my first official mock exam, I'm planning to have my first mock exam after I finish like most of like reviewing of first year things. So my first year of medical school, we had cardio, pulm, renal, immunology, hematology, and oncology, and like MSK. So like once I finish that, I plan on taking another mock exam, which should be about I have written down here from March 18th, so hopefully like that shows some improvement. And then I'm gonna finish out going through the rest of the material, so GI, endocrine, repro, neuro, and psych. And then I'm gonna take another mock exam, and then that should be March 30th if everything goes according to plan. But a lot of times people have to rearrange their schedule as they're studying through STEP, and that's perfectly normal, it's perfectly okay. That's why I have scheduled in like catch-up days and buffer days, and hopefully everything goes okay. I keep saying hopefully just because I'm trying to remain positive. So yeah, and then my third mock exam, I plan on doing it after I do a second pass of all the organ systems, which I have that it'll take me like a week to do. So then my next mock exam would be April 6th, and then have like another week of kind of just like rereading first aid, like just do a power read of first aid, as well as going through my UWorld like incorrects, and then also doing biochem. So I have to like, I'll talk about that later. But yeah, so my last mock exam would be like a little under a week before my official exam date, which is on April 13th. And then I take my actual exam on April 19th. And then on my last week, I just have buffer days and like reviewing the high yield facts of first aid, just because I feel like that's, my last week is gonna change drastically depending on like how I've been doing, and like that's when I will decide how I want to spend my last week, focusing on things that I'm weak on. So I just have like buffer days written down for them. So that's that. Let me actually just show you guys. I don't have much written on here. It kind of just says what I'll be studying every day, but I also have a breakdown of my like my day. So I'll show you guys that as well. So if you can see here, this is my formal study period. I'm gonna start with renal. For renal, I'm gonna do 2 days to review it. And the way I've been kind of, how I figured out how many days I wanna review something is based off how many pages of it are in first aid. So if something has like a lot of pages in first aid, or it's something that's really high yield, like cardio, I feel like I would need 3 days for it. And then after every couple organ system blocks, I have a catch-up day just in case I need it, to kind of review some things that I felt weak on. So for the most organ systems, I plan on taking 2 days to review them. I plan on my first day being kind of just anatomy and physiology, and then the second day being more pathology and pharmacology. So going back here, so yeah, the first 2 days are gonna be renal, and then after renal, I plan on doing cardio for 3 days, and then pulm for 2, and then I have a catch-up day here in case I fell behind for any reason. I can devote this day to just catching up. And then, what does it say here? And then immunology, I'm like so scared about, like, I don't know why, I just don't like immunology at all. It's not interesting to me, but I gave myself 1 day for it just because it's like not a super long chapter in first aid. So I gave myself 1 day for immunology, and then I gave myself 3 days for hematology and oncology, just because I feel like those are 2 organ systems technically, even though it's 1 section in first aid. I don't know, I feel like there's just a lot on hem-onc, also in pathoma too, so just gave myself 3 days for it. And then I switched like GI and MSK just because I feel like GI goes more with hem-onc. So I gave myself 2 days for GI, and then a mock exam. And then 2 days for MSK, which is musculoskeletal, then 2 days for endocrine, and 2 days for repro, even though one of my advisors told me I should just do 2 days total for repro and endocrine because we learned them together, and it was like, it's fairly new. We had it in October, November. And then I have another catch-up day on here, and then followed by 2 days of neuro and 1 day of psych, followed by another catch-up day. So some of you guys are probably like, but the neuro psych section in first aid is so long. Why do you only have like 3 days for it? And that's mainly because right now I'm in my neuro psych block, and we have our final for it on the 22nd. So I'm going to treat that week as if I'm like studying for my step 1 exam, and kind of go really hard for neuro psych. So that way I know it and I feel strong in it before I start my dedicated. So when I get to dedicated, I don't have to take so much time reviewing neuro psych. And that's also why I have it at the very end, because I will have just had it. Yeah, and then I have another mock exam on March 30th, and then right now I have second pass here, and I have immuno and GI, but I think based off of how I do on this mock exam on March 30th, I will adjust accordingly with doing my weaker sections first as my second pass, and then going through the week from weakest to strongest. So moving on to April, I have, like I said, it's a second pass MSK. I kind of just penciled in the organ systems, but I'm expecting to change them based off how I did. And then once I finish my second pass, I do expect to do another mock exam on April 6th, and then sort of just go through first aid and the biochem section. So some of you guys are like, why are you doing biochem so close to your exam date? So I don't know about you guys, but the way I learn biochem, it's very like memorization. I feel like I should have it closer to the end, and if I have it more so in the beginning and middle of my dedicated time, I feel like I'm going to forget that information. So I would rather review biochem more closer to my exam date and before my last mock exam. So that's where I stuck it in. But yeah, it's whatever your preference is, but I just feel like biochemistry is something that I should see closer to my exam date, so that way it's more fresh in my head, because it's easy to forget. It's just pathways and it's really annoying things to memorize. And then, like I said, I have all these buffer days right before my exam date, and just because I feel like I'm gonna switch them regardless. And then I have like a breakdown of like every day what I'm gonna do. But basically, if you want, I can post this, but this is more realistic of like, without having to make this video too long and like go through every single thing, what I'm gonna do every day. So like I do have like what I'm gonna be reviewing, like if I'm gonna be watching Boards and Beyond that day, or Pathoma, or what pages of first aid I'm reading and what I'm doing. But this is kind of like a synopsis of it all. So my day, I plan on my day starting at 7 and ending around 11:30, 12. I feel like as my dedicated time goes on, I'm going to be taking less time to go through question blocks, and hopefully it will make me finish my days earlier. So right now I have wake up and like go to the gym from 7 to 8. And then from like 8 to 8:30, you know, just shower and have some breakfast, and then hopefully start my actual studying by 8:30 or 9. And then for the first part of my day, basically my morning from 8:30 to 12, I plan on just using that as like studying what I'm supposed to be learning that day. So mainly first aid and pathoma. Oh, I forgot to say what my resources are gonna be. So my review, backtrack, my review material is gonna be first aid, pathoma, Boards and Beyond, and Sketchy. I'm mainly using Sketchy Micro and Sketchy Farm. I have watched them before my dedicated time, but I do feel like whenever I get a question wrong and it relates to a Sketchy Micro or Sketchy Farm video, I'm going to rewatch it. Yeah, and then Sketchy Path, I don't know how, like if I'm gonna have time to do it, so I'm not putting it on my schedule that I'm gonna watch it. I have used Sketchy Path for certain organ systems, and I did think it was helpful in remembering the information, but those videos are just too long, and it's something that you should be using if you want to incorporate it into your schedule in your first and second year. But I don't know if it's going to be helpful to watch it for the first time during dedicated, so I'm not planning on using it. And then for my question banks, I'm gonna go through UWorld. If I finish UWorld and my incorrects, I'm gonna do Usmle or X, and in the rare case that I finish that too, I have Kaplan. So I have those 3 question banks at like my disposal to use them, but if I don't get to Kaplan, it's not the end of the world. And then like I said, I'm gonna do the mock exams, 4 mock exams. So back to my day. So yeah, so from like 8:30 to 12, I plan on reviewing first aid or pathoma or whatever I have to review for that day. So for example, for renal on my first day, I'm gonna do anatomy and physiology for renal, and it's gonna be like pages 562 to 577 of first aid. And then I also plan on doing Boards and Beyond, and that's gonna be like my morning. Then I'm gonna have lunch from 1 to 2, or is it 12? 12 to 1. And then the rest of my day will be devoted to doing UWorld questions. So one thing that I think everybody stresses is to not wait till the end to do questions. You have to start your studying with doing questions. Questions are a study tool to learn. So it was recommended to me, and I thought it was a good idea to do 80 questions a day, and so two blocks of 40 basically. And if I happen to get through them in a timely manner, I can do more, but 80's gonna try and make it my minimum. So to get through and review 40 question blocks, it's going to take a lot of time. So I have blocked off 4 hours for going through 40 questions, a 40 question block. So I plan on my first 40 being solely on the topic that I studied that day. So my first 40 UWorld questions from 1 to 5 are gonna be, for example, if I did renal anatomy and physiology that day, it's gonna be on renal anatomy and physiology. And then I'm gonna have dinner from 5 to 6, and then from 6 to, I have here 10 o'clock, but hopefully I finish earlier than that. It's gonna be my second 40 UWorld questions. And that is gonna be a mix. So that's gonna be comprehensive of everything that I've studied thus far. So obviously in the beginning, I'm not gonna have that many things that I've studied, but because I just finished my neuro and psych shelf exam, I'm gonna incorporate those into my mix, as well as microbiology. I'm always gonna have micro in there, just because I've reviewed it before dedicated, so I want to continue to review it in my UWorld questions. So first 40 are going to be what I studied that morning, and second 40 question pack is going to be things that I've studied thus far. So that way I stay fresh on everything that I've studied. And then another thing that was recommended that we do is that we review for every 2 days that we review micro for 1 day. So at nighttime, or leisurely, I guess, I'm going to do flashcards for pharmacology and microbiology. So if Monday and Tuesday I do pharm, on Wednesday I'm gonna do micro, and then Thursday, Friday I'm gonna review pharm. And that's probably just gonna be an hour each day, just doing some flashcards on pharm, because those two things are high yield and it's very just memorization. So it's good to just do a little bit of it every day, so you stay up to date, up to date on it. And then kind of just get ready for bed, and hopefully lights out in bed before 11:30 or 12. As my dedicated time goes on, I do expect to take less than 4 hours to review a 40 pack of questions, just because you start to pick up the pace, and because your knowledge has grown, you are gonna do them faster. And I've even seen that when I study for shelves, in the beginning of a shelf week, I'll take a long time to get through 40 questions and review each question, even your correct answers, review them. And then as the week goes on and I get closer to my test date, I'm just hammering them through. So that's my day-to-day schedule. So if you guys have any questions about dedicated, what step 1 is, and all that jazz, link that below. And wish me luck during this difficult time. Hopefully I can record some videos of just me studying. If you guys want to do maybe a study with me, I can do that, because my days will mostly, as you can see, consist of just waking up and studying. So I'll be MIA for a while, but I'll see you guys on the other side as a third year. Bye.